When my husband passed, the world felt too quiet. 42 years of marriage, and then silence. I stayed in the house for 6 months after the funeral. Every corner reminded me of him. His slippers by the door, his reading glasses still on the side table, his voice in my head every time I stood at the stove. It became too heavy to carry alone. That's when Daniel, my only son, suggested I move in with him and Tara. "It'll be easier, Mom," he said. "The baby's coming and you won't be alone." It sounded like a blessing. At the time, they were still renting a cramped apartment. I offered to help, sold my house, took every penny I had and helped them buy their first home, something modest but comfortable. I paid more than half of the down payment, quietly, no ceremony, no fuss. I moved into the guest room and immediately became the backbone of their household. Tara was in her 3rd trimester. Tired and snappy, I cooked every meal, cleaned the bathrooms, washed clothes, folded Daniel's shirts just like I used to when he was little. I woke up early, prepared breakfast, made grocery lists, and kept the house running without a word. When their baby girl was born, I stayed up at night rocking her while Tara rested. I changed diapers, cleaned bottles, and held that child as if she were my own. And through it all, I never asked for anything, not even a thank you, because I believed I was doing what any mother would. But slowly, I noticed things changing. Tara stopped saying good morning. She rolled her eyes when I asked if she wanted tea. She told me to stay out of it when I asked if the baby was too warm in her swaddle. And Daniel? He became quieter, more distant, always busy, never noticing how I was shrinking inside the very house I helped build. Still, I told myself it was just adjustment. A young couple, a new baby, stress. They'd come around. I just had to keep helping. So I did, day after day, until the day Tara called me a name that would change everything. It happened during a small Sunday gathering. Daniel and Tara had invited a few of their friends over. Young couples, stylish, loud, sipping wine like they were in some magazine spread. I stayed out of the way as usual, cooked, cleaned, kept the baby entertained so Tara could socialize. I heard them laughing in the living room while I washed dishes in the kitchen. Nothing new. Then I heard one of the women ask, "Is that your nanny?" I paused, waiting for Tara to correct her. Instead, Tara laughed. "More like a full-time housemaid," she said. "At least everything stays clean." The room exploded with laughter. I stood there, my hands dripping with soapy water, staring at the sink. Every laugh hit me like a slap. A housemaid. That's what I had become to her. Not a mother-in-law, not a grandmother, not the woman who helped raise her child while she recovered from labor, not the one who made 3 meals a day, folded her laundry, restocked her fridge, a maid. And Daniel, he laughed too, not loudly, not meanly, but enough. He didn't defend me, didn't say, "That's my mom," didn't say, "She gave us this house." He let the words float in the room like they were harmless, like I hadn't just been gutted. I dried my hands, walked to my room, and sat on the edge of the bed. The walls felt tighter than ever before. I looked around at my few things, my old shawl, my small wooden jewelry box, my framed photo of my husband, and suddenly it all felt so wrong. I didn't belong here, not in this house, not in this silence, not in a place where the people I loved most could laugh at me being invisible. But I didn't cry. I didn't even tell them I heard it, because in that moment something clicked inside me. I wasn't the maid, I was the owner. They just forgot who made this house a home, but I was about to remind them. That night, I didn't eat dinner with them. Tara didn't seem to notice. She laughed with her guests, passed around a tray of little desserts I had baked that morning, and smiled like she owned the world. Daniel was busy pouring drinks. They looked happy, comfortable. While I sat in my room behind a closed door, still hearing the echo of her words. Full-time housemaid. I stared at the ceiling in the dark for a long time, and when the house went quiet, I got up, turned on the small lamp by my bed, and opened the drawer where I kept my paperwork. Most people didn't know this part. They thought I had just given them money from the sale of my house, helped out of love, and then stepped into the background, but that wasn't the whole truth. When we bought the house, the mortgage company asked who would be listed on the deed. I was, not just as a co-signer, but as a co-owner. Tara never asked about it. I don't think she even cared. Daniel handled most of the paperwork, and I didn't say much back then. I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. I thought we were family. I thought paperwork didn't matter between people who love each other, but it did. It mattered now, because the person she called a maid owned half the house. She walked around like a queen. I pulled out the bank records. I had quietly paid most of the mortgage over the last 3 years. Tara didn't know that either. Daniel never told her. He asked me to help, and I did, every month. Just a transfer, no questions. I had receipts, all of them. Gas bills, grocery runs, doctor appointments for the baby, new furniture. I kept it all. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I trusted myself to always remember what I gave. And now, I needed to remember. The next morning I woke up before anyone else, made tea, sat in silence, looked around the kitchen I had cleaned every single day, the floor I mopped, the fridge I filled, the air that no longer felt like home. Tara came in around 9 o'clock, hair wrapped in a towel, yawning. She gave me a quick glance. Morning. I didn't respond. I waited for Daniel. When he finally walked in, I stood. Without a word, I reached into my purse and pulled out the keys, the ones I carried since day one, house keys, garage, mailbox. I placed them gently on the kitchen table. Tara frowned. What's that? I looked her in the eyes for the first time in weeks. You called me your maid, I said softly. So here you go. Pay the mortgage now. The room went quiet. Daniel's mouth fell open slightly, like he was trying to find the right words, but none would come. Tara looked at me as if I had spoken in another language. She blinked once, then twice, then let out a short, nervous laugh. Wait, what do you mean? She asked. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I just repeated what I said, calmly, clearly. You called me your maid, so those are the keys. It's your house now. Pay the mortgage. Tara looked at Daniel, expecting him to laugh along with her, to tell me I was overreacting, that it was all a joke, but Daniel didn't say a word. Not one. I looked at him too. You let her call me that, I said, in front of your friends, after everything I've done. Not just for you, but for her and that baby. He rubbed the back of his neck. Mom, I didn't mean... No, I said, you didn't say anything. That's the part that meant everything. Tara stepped forward. Okay, look, it was a joke. I was just being funny. I didn't think. That's the problem, Tara. You didn't think. Not about who I am. Not about what I gave up. Her face flushed. I didn't ask you to give us money. No, you didn't. But you didn't mind living in a house I paid for. And you certainly didn't mind letting me scrub your floors, wash your dishes, and raise your child like it was my job. She went silent. I turned to Daniel. I gave you both more than I had. I never asked for a thank you. I never asked for a title. But if the only one you're willing to give me is maid, then you can carry the rest of this home on your own. He opened his mouth again, but I shook my head. I'm done. And I walked to my room, shut the door, and packed my last bag. It didn't take long. I didn't have much to begin with. Just clothes, a few books, my late husband's watch, and a small photo of me holding Daniel the day he was born. As I zipped the suitcase shut, I realized something. I had loved them more than they would ever know. But love without respect is just servitude, and I wasn't born to serve. I walked past the kitchen again. Tara stood frozen, one hand on the counter. Daniel looked like a child caught cheating on a test, ashamed but unsure why. I didn't say goodbye. I simply picked up my purse and walked out the door. It didn't slam. It clicked softly, just like the sound of dignity returning. I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom on the second floor of a quiet building with a garden view and a kind woman named Eleanor across the hall, who offered me cookies on the first day. It wasn't big, but it was peaceful. Clean. Mine. The first morning I woke up there, I made tea and sat on the little balcony. For the first time in years, I drank it while it was still hot. No one asked for breakfast. No one needed me to wash bottles or clean up after guests. Just silence, just me. I thought I would feel empty, but I felt light, like I'd been carrying an invisible weight for years and had finally set it down. I unpacked slowly, took time placing books on shelves, hung up my clothes, put up 2 photos, one of my wedding day and one of Daniel when he was 5, smiling with jam all over his face. I still loved my son. That part hadn't changed, but I wasn't going to shrink for him again. Back at their house, I knew things weren't going well. I didn't need updates. I didn't need to hear it. I knew Tara didn't know how to manage the baby on her own. She didn't cook, hated cleaning, didn't know where half the things in the house even were, because I had always taken care of them. I also knew Daniel was already struggling with the finances. What they didn't know was that after I left, I paused my automatic mortgage payments, quietly, legally, because I still owned part of that house, and now they were responsible for all of it, every bill, every repair, every late-night feeding, every tantrum. Tara had mocked me like I was disposable. Now she had to live without me. A week later, I got a call from Daniel. I didn't answer. Then a message. "Mom, can we talk?" Then another. "Tara didn't mean it. She's just been stressed." And then finally, "We miss you." I stared at my phone for a long time, then placed it face down on the table. I didn't need an apology shaped like an excuse. If they wanted forgiveness, they'd have to show it, not text it. And I was no longer the kind of woman who rushed back just because someone said, "I miss you." 2 more weeks passed. Daniel called again. Then again. I never blocked him. I wasn't angry, just finished. And sometimes that's worse than anger. Because when a mother stops trying, stops explaining, stops picking up, something changes for good. Then one evening I heard a knock on my apartment door. I opened it to find Daniel standing there, holding the baby. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, shirt wrinkled, hair uncombed. The baby was fussing, one sock missing, and her bottle half leaking through the side of the bag hanging on his shoulder. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. I stepped aside and let him in. He walked in like a man who didn't recognize the world anymore. "I didn't come to fight," he said. "I just needed to see you." He sat on the couch. The baby immediately calmed down in my arms like she remembered the arms that had rocked her for hours in the dark. Daniel looked around my small apartment. It was clean, peaceful, no chaos, no noise. He watched as I wiped the bottle, adjusted the baby's sock, and bounced her gently. Then he broke down. "I'm sorry," he said. "I let her treat you like nothing." I stood there and said nothing, and I hate myself for it. I didn't speak. He went on. "She's overwhelmed, so am I. The house feels heavy now. It's like we built it on your back, and now that you're not there, it's just falling in." I handed him the baby, now asleep. "You didn't just build that house on my back," I said softly. "You stood by while someone spat on the person who carried it." He looked down. "I know." Then finally, he asked the question I expected. "Would you come back?" I looked him in the eyes. "Would I come back to cook your meals, rock your baby, clean your floors?" He didn't answer. "Would I come back to be your maid again?" I asked, my voice calm. "No," he whispered. "I'd want you to come back as family." I smiled sadly. "Then you should have treated me like that before I left." Daniel didn't argue. He just sat there holding his sleeping daughter, eyes full of regret. He stayed for another 10 minutes. We didn't speak much. The silence wasn't angry, it was full of truth, full of all the things he couldn't take back, and all the things I didn't need to say anymore. When he finally stood up, he kissed my forehead. "I'm sorry, Mom, really." I nodded. "I know." He hesitated at the door. "I'll never let her speak to you that way again." I nodded again. "I hope you mean that." He left quietly, the baby still curled against his chest, and I exhaled. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because I knew. He finally saw it. The cost of silence, the cost of letting someone you love be disrespected under your roof. Over the next few weeks, I didn't return. I didn't ask for updates. I didn't text first. And something incredible happened. I started healing. I joined a local women's group at the community center. Most of them were older like me, widows, grandmothers, aunts who had given and given and given, and been thanked with silence. We shared stories, cooked together, laughed harder than I had in years. I began teaching free cooking classes for young women, simple meals, budget meals, food that fed the heart, not just the stomach. They listened to me. They respected me. Some of them even started calling me Mama Margaret. It made me smile every time, because I wasn't anyone's maid. I was someone's teacher now, someone's guide, someone worth looking up to, and I finally felt that in my bones. One day, I passed by a mirror and paused. My face looked softer, not because of makeup, but because I had finally dropped the weight I was never meant to carry. Respect, I had learned, isn't always taken from you. Sometimes it's what you forget to ask for, because you're too busy giving everything else. And now, I had stopped asking. I had started living. One afternoon, while I was finishing up a recipe session at the community center, my phone buzzed. It was Daniel again. This time, it was just a short message. I wanted you to know, we're selling the house. I stared at the screen for a long time. I hadn't asked for that. I hadn't hinted. I hadn't pressured. But deep down, I understood. That house carried too many memories for them now. The walls had seen the weight of what was broken, not just what was built. And maybe Tara didn't say it out loud, but I knew she felt the shift too. I replied simply, I hope this time you pay for it yourselves. He responded with a single heart. No arguments, no excuses, just acknowledgement. The house sold within a month. They moved into a smaller place, no guest room, no spare hands, just Daniel, Tara, the baby, and the reality of everything that came with living in a home you have to carry alone. I didn't visit. I didn't ask, but I heard from neighbors, from mutual family. Tara was quieter now, not as smug, not as loud. She had started working part-time. Daniel was more involved with the baby. They were finally learning how to run a house without someone silently fixing everything behind them, and that was enough for me. In my own world, things were blooming, literally. I started a small garden on my balcony, pots filled with basil, mint, cherry tomatoes. I planted flowers in odd old mugs I collected from thrift shops. Every evening I watered them, watched them grow, took pictures and sent them to the community group, like proud updates on children. It made me feel whole. Not because I had a mansion, not because anyone called me important, but because I had created something beautiful. Just for me. I didn't need to be needed anymore. I needed to be respected. And now, even in silence, I was. Winter came quietly that year. The air turned crisp, and I started wearing my husband's old sweater around the house. Soft, a little worn, but warm in a way that had nothing to do with fabric. Some evenings I'd sip tea by the window and reread the letters he used to leave me. Sweet little notes on napkins, old receipts, corners of crossword puzzles. He always made me feel seen. And that's what had been missing for so long, not just in the house I left, but in myself. One evening I received a letter, a real letter, handwritten. It was from Tara. Dear Margaret, I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. I dismissed everything you gave us, your time, your home, your care, and I did it with a cruel joke that still echoes in my mind. You didn't deserve that, and I'm sorry. I wasn't ready for motherhood. I wasn't ready for your kind of strength, and instead of learning from you, I tried to silence you. Thank you for leaving. It taught me who I really was, and who I want to be. With love, Tara. I read it twice. I didn't cry. I didn't feel victorious. I felt peace, because she finally understood something that couldn't be taught with chores or favors. The value of what I gave. Not the meals, not the laundry, not the babysitting, but the presence, the stability. The woman who held the whole thing together so quietly, no one noticed until she left.
And now they were better because I left. I folded the letter, placed it in the same wooden box where I kept my husband's notes, and whispered to myself, "You did good." I didn't go back. I didn't reply, because that letter wasn't an invitation. It was closure, and that was enough. Spring arrived with soft winds and warm sun that kissed the flowers in my balcony garden. The tomatoes were ripening. The mint had started climbing. I woke up early just to sit outside and watch the light fall across the pots. It was simple, and it was perfect. I no longer looked at my phone waiting for Daniel to call. I didn't listen for apologies in silence. I had stopped needing to be anyone's savior. I had become my own. One morning, I received a package. Inside was a photo frame. It held a picture of me, holding the baby, smiling, flower on my cheek, Tara laughing in the background. I hadn't even known it was taken. Taped to the back was a note in Daniel's handwriting. "This is what we lost when we stopped seeing you. We love you, Mom. Not because of what you do, because of who you are." I traced my fingers over the words, then set the frame beside the others, next to the old wedding photo and Daniel's jam-covered smile at age 5. Not as a reminder of pain, but of strength, because I had walked away when they called me Maid. And in doing so, I reminded them, and myself, of something deeper. That love without respect isn't love at all. I didn't need their house. I had my home. I didn't need their gratitude. I had my worth. And I didn't need to be called anything but this: Margaret, mother, grandmother, woman, who carried an entire family quietly, until silence was no longer an option.